My name's Ben Tanner. I'm a recording engineer and keyboard player from Muscle Shoals, Alabama. First thing I remember really catching a hold of me was when the Beatles anthology thing came on ABC. It was like a mini-series. I think I was 12. Because it's funny, I didn't really fully appreciate the whole thing that was going on in the Shoals until I left. I went to college in Memphis and came back. I'd go occasionally to those, they used to have them at the Holiday Inn. It was like a little singer-songwriter night, and it was various guys who were from around here that would play. Somebody like Mac McAnally might do it occasionally, or Walt Aldridge, and just a bunch of other dudes. But I remember also that's when I saw Jason Isbell there, when he was before he was in the Truckers, because I was in high school still, and he's just a few years older than me. He was probably still in college. After Memphis, I lived in Paris, France for about a year, and knew I wanted to do something in music. I played in bands. I'd recorded a little bit. I stumbled into a job at Fame. The cool thing was, in addition to having the experience of working at Fame and getting some real exposure to the real music business, there was also just this community of folks around my age that were making music and playing in bands and touring a little bit. And there were a couple, small hole-in-the-wall venues around town where you could play. And that's really what kept me here, was this community of folks making some really good music. And hey, you need to make a record. I want to make your record. I want some experience. I want to learn. Let's do it. And, not worry about who's getting paid what or anything. Just try to make the best record we can make. And we made a lot of records that way. And then toured a good bit with Dylan LeBlanc, and was playing also with a bunch of bands around here, like Lauderdale and The Bear and Belladere and the Pollies. There really weren't any other keyboard players around our age, so I kind of became the de facto keyboard player. And then since, I guess it was summer 2011 is when I started playing with Alabama Shakes. They were a great band. They were cool. And, added them to the list of people I was playing with for a while, and then they got a lot busier than everybody else. We've played a couple shows with Neil Young. The Shakes have opened for Neil Young for a few shows. That's ridiculous to me. We got to play a few years ago, the MusiCares event, which precedes the Grammys by a couple of days, and it was Springsteen was they always pick a person of the year, and a bunch of people play covers, and we were invited to do that, so we played a Springsteen song in front of Springsteen. Prince played with us not long ago. That was pretty cool. When we've done SNL a couple of times, that's really, really fun and surreal and great. But when it's happening, you're working. It's really not till after it's over you're like, oh, we did that. That was really cool. It's me and John Paul White and Will Trapp are the three partners in Single Lock. In 2012, Will moved back to the Shoals. Was kind of fascinated by what was happening around here. He had sort of casually mentioned if you ever needed to raise money for anything, let me know, because he's in financial planning. I sort of dreamt of, and this is sort of what came up from mine and Will's conversations, of a scenario where still not spending a ton of money, not spending a lot more than the bands were already, just trying to take that financial burden off of the artists. Just kind of trying to facilitate things happening for bands that they couldn't necessarily do themselves. All these bands were already sharing members, playing on each other's records, working with each other on different things, and a lot of Single Lock for me was just making something a little more official. And meanwhile, John Paul bought a space, just a little house that was adjacent to his house that he was thinking about putting a studio in. He knew I was looking for a space too. He was like, come look at this house, see if you think it'll work for a studio. And I checked it out, and I said, yeah, I think it'd be cool. And he's like, well, let's do it. Then I told him, I was like, look, I've been having this conversation about this record label idea. You are welcome to be involved or not involved or whatever in between. He said, I want in. And it's like, well, how much do you want in? He was like, as much as y'all have me. And so that's sort of when we kind of set up this sort of 3-part partnership, and we've got a little studio and making records and figuring it out as we go. It's been a learning experience, and that's been trial by fire too, of just figuring it out as we go.